So calories. Do we have to really worry about calories? You have to worry about calories if you're eating a high processed diet. Absolutely. If the majority of your calories comes from processed foods, then yes, please count your calories as much as you can, okay? But if your calories are coming primarily from fruits and vegetables and high quality proteins, I don't have any reason to tell you to count your calories, because your body will adjust itself and it'll tell you when to stop eating. Okay? You know, how many people have you seen gotten fat eating salads and grilled vegetables and grilled meats? Okay? It doesn't really happen that way. It's when we eat a lot of the flour and the chips and the crackers and all that little kind of processed stuff that we really want to stay away from. So you want to remember too that not all calories are created equal. So 200 calories of pizza is going to make me fat, but 200 calories of salmon and grilled vegetables isn't. And so you got to look at it that way too. So we have complex carbohydrates. To make this easy, complex carbohydrates are basically the things in their natural state. So grains in their natural state. So I'm not saying a piece of bread yet, right? Just in their natural state. Grains in their natural state. Fruits and vegetables. And of course our vegetables and our fruit. But those things, they all have fiber in them, right? And fiber is going to help slow down their digestion a little bit. Some vegetables actually have a fair amount of protein in them. Believe it or not. There's actually a couple of fruits items that have some protein in there. And then of course you've got your grains. Anybody eat quinoa? Yeah. Quinoa is a great grain. That's just a fabulous grain because it's a complete protein all by itself, and it kind of goes, I tell people it goes both ways. So I say make plain quinoa, and for breakfast, sprinkle some nuts on it, smash up some raspberries and blueberries on there, maybe drizzle a tiny, tiny bit of honey on it, and you got breakfast. Or at night, you can chop up some garlic, add some olive oil and some nice fresh vegetables, and mix it up, and you've got kind of a salady meal. I also add in there lots of beans and broccolini and things like that into there, and you've got a full meal. So it's a great way to go. Okay, simple carbohydrates. Think of these as your processed foods. So these are things that are not in their natural state. Okay, they have been processed, manufactured in some way, somehow. And most of them have a very high glycemic index, which means that they have a very high sugar content. Even though they all metabolize as a sugar, just some of them are going to have a much higher sugar content than others. So, carbohydrates is what gives us energy for our workouts. But the key is we want to get energy, in a weird way, we want our energy spoon-fed to us as opposed to given to us in one jolt, right? So we want to make sure that we combine it with a good quality protein and fat, because that's going to sustain our calories and our energy for a longer period of time. We want to get it from the non-processed, and we want to stay away from those simple ones that end up spiking our energy, okay? Because we want our energy to come to us slowly. So proteins, what are proteins? Eggs, lean meat, fish, poultry, raw nuts, legumes, right? And then we have some grains, just like I was saying, the quinoa, right? And we've got the hemp seeds and the chia seeds. Those provide protein also. So these are the things that are going to help us basically spoon feed our calories and our energy to us. Now, not all proteins are created equal, okay? So this is important here. We have a conventional egg, and we have an organic, free-range, pasture-fed egg. Have you ever had an egg that you don't even have to hit it to crack it, it just breaks? Okay? But yet, if you go to a farm and you get an egg, a lot of times you have to take this egg and you have to hit it hard to break. Okay? And that's really what we want. They say too that when you look at the egg, when you crack the egg and you look at it, the egg yolk and the white should all kind of stay together. When the white just kind of splats out, it's lost a lot of its good nourishment that keeps it all together. So when it comes to chicken and eggs, we want them organic, free range, and pasture fed. Yes?
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
White eggs and brown eggs, is there any difference?
No, there's not.
The brown eggs are not far any better than the white eggs?
No. There's no difference at all. But there is, nutritionally, there's a huge difference between conventional eggs and organic eggs. A lot of it has to do with the essential fatty acids. because you get essential fatty acids from eggs, and conventional eggs gives you very, very little, when the organic eggs give you a lot more. So the pasture-fed means that basically these chickens are just running free, and they're eating what they would normally eat, running around. No one is giving them no one is giving them food. So you can go to the grocery store and you can get organic eggs, right, that are free range, and they are vegetarian fed. Well, that means that some guy made a food for them and gave it to them. That's not their natural food, okay? And so that's not going to be as good an egg as a pasture-fed egg. Fish. One of the biggest challenges with fish is mercury. There's an app, it's called Seafood Watch. For those of you guys who have smartphones, it's a great way of kind of seeing where your fish is. So like when you're at a restaurant, you could easily see if that fish provides high levels of mercury or not. And so I usually highly recommend that for people. But you basically want to stay more on the guide of the low mercury fish. Okay? And here in South Florida, you really want to try to stay with the things that are fresh and local. Like our mahi-mahi, right? Dolphin, because we get it right there. It's right there, right off the docks. Beef, again, organic, grass-fed, free range. So again, the cows are just roaming around, eating their natural food. No one is preparing a meal for them, okay? And that's really how we'd like to kind of keep it with everything. Now, when it comes to fish, there's farm-raised, and there's different kinds of farm-raised. A typical farmed raised means that they took a swimming pool, they shoved all the fish in there, and they live there, breathe there, do everything together, and nothing moves. There is a wild farm raised where they're actually out in the ocean in a pen made of a net so that the water shifts through. So that would be a better choice, but your all-time best choice is that they're caught from just being wild, doing their thing. Okay? So protein highlights. Proteins, they are the building blocks of our body, and they are what repairs our tissue. And so we want to really always remember that, especially if we're weight training. You know, we want our muscles to be strong, and we need to give them the proper food for that. They are also the ones who are going to dissipate our calories. During exercise, protein is what's going to help us maintain our energy, because again, it's going to spoon feed our calories and our energy to us throughout our workout. Protein requirements, they vary for individuals. A lot of times, there's something called metabolic testing, where we all metabolize our proteins, fats, and carbohydrates differently. And there's people like myself that do these things called metabolic testing. And so, for example, I am considered a mixed type. So when you look at all of my meals, my snacks, my meals, everything, I always have 50% carbohydrates and 50% protein and a little bit of fat. On the other hand, my husband metabolizes more protein more efficiently. So his meals are always much higher protein. And then at the same time, I have friends they're higher on the carbohydrate side. So it's a matter of kind of figuring out. But for the average person, I always tell them, try to go on that 50-50 line, where every meal and every snack carries a sufficient amount of protein and carbohydrates with a little bit of fat.
Does everybody know what the metabolic testing is, or do you want Adita to explain that? Because that's something that is very, very important for you to personalize and customize your eating and your exercise program. You want her to give a little bit more information on metabolic testing?
Metabolic testing, it sounds like it's this big scientific, and it is scientific, but it doesn't mean that you get hooked up to electrodes and things like that. It's basically it's a very long series of questions about how you digest foods, how you feel after you eat certain foods, how you, how quickly do you have to eat after each meal. And once you've answered all those questions, then that's when we start to play with what your proportions should be. So it's not that difficult. It's not a big, thing, but it is something that's kind of helpful, and it's very helpful if your goal has been to lose weight, and you're like, I have clients that come to me and they're like, Adita, I eat perfectly, I drink tons of water, and I have not been able to lose weight, and it's because their proportions have been wrong. And so once we've fixed those proportions, then they've been fine. Okay, fat highlights. All fat is not bad. We need fat, okay? And just like if we are dehydrated, we retain water and we get puffy. Do you know that? When you're dehydrated, you could retain up to 10 pounds of water. if you're dehydrated. So the same thing happens. If you're not consuming, if you're on this fat-free diet and you're not consuming enough fat for your body type, then what your body does is anytime it gets anything that it can store as fat, it's going to store it as fat. We need to have fat in order to allow our body to flush fat out, because fat is what insulates all our internal organs, and it's also very responsible in us absorbing A, D, E, and K vitamins. If we don't have enough fat in our system, we don't absorb those vitamins very well. So we want to make sure that we have it in there. So what kind of fats? Well, we've got olive oil, right? We've got, now just kind of a keynote, which I always think that this is kind of a neat fact. Regular olive oil, just not extra virgin, just regular olive oil. The stuff that's kind of green and has that wonderful olive oil smell, you don't heat that. That's like gold. That is what you use on your salad, and you never heat that. You can heat extra virgin olive oil, okay? But the olive oil by itself, you don't heat that. That you just cherish, kind of thing, okay? I would go to Spain a lot, and I'd bring back these giant things of olive oil, and I'd be like, oh, there it is, okay? But coconut oil is fantastic, because coconut oil, unlike olive oil, can withstand high amounts of heat, which olive oil really can't take very high amounts of heat. So coconut oil is a wonderful way of putting in the fats without disrupting it if we're going to cook with it. The challenge with it is that there's a flavor to coconut oil, right? And so if you don't really care for that flavor, you may not want to cook certain items with it. But I use coconut oil like if I'm going to make pancakes, or if I'm going to make things that the coconut flavor would actually just enhance the flavor of my food, I use coconut oil. And just kind of put that in there. Another thing, who's coffee? Show me my coffee drinkers. Coffee drinkers, okay. This is going to sound weird, but if you have coconut oil, I'd like you to try this. Take, and just to start you off small so that no one gets all wigged out on me, right? Take half a teaspoon of coconut oil and stick it in your coffee. Okay? The reason being is that, first off, coconut oil is wonderful for your hormone levels, for your skin, for everything. The second reason is that little amount of fat is going to help so that you don't have a spike of caffeine. It's going to help dissipate your energy so that it lasts a longer period of time. Now, if you can take it even better, I'd prefer a full teaspoon. Not a half a teaspoon, but a full teaspoon. But a half a teaspoon is how you get started. Okay?
I heard coconut oil has a lot of cholesterol, very bad for cholesterol.
Here's the thing. We do not, okay, let's just take eggs, for example, okay? We do not take the cholesterol of the egg and stick it into our system. That's something that was said a long time ago, and now science has changed it, because we do not do that. What we do though is we produce cholesterol when we're metabolizing something that we're not breaking down correctly, like corn syrup and high fructose corn syrup. So coconut oil is not going to make you create tears in the arteries and make you produce cholesterol. It will not do that. Okay. Yes, it has a little tiny bit of cholesterol in it, but it's not bad cholesterol that's going to stick to you.
So if you put it in your coffee, and I drink decaffeinated, would that make up for any sugar? Would it give a sweet taste at all?
You know what? It kind of gives it like a silky taste. It doesn't really give it a sweet taste. I can't give it sweet.
Cream or...
No, but if you're a cream drinker, and I would like to get you guys off of that, right? So there's things like hemp milk, which is really, it has a little bit more of a nuttier flavor. If you're going to try a nut milk, I always say try the flavored ones first and then wean yourself off that to the original ones. So I'd say try a vanilla hemp milk first, and then your ultimate goal is going to be to do an original hemp milk. But by using the hemp milk with a little bit of coconut oil, it's going to give it more of that creaminess that you were getting from your creamer.
If she's drinking decaffeinated coffee, what's the problem?
Well, sugar in the
You're having sugar and cream.
yeah, so we can get, and I mean the coconut oil is just it's all-time good for you. It's great for your gums. It's great. I mean, there's nothing wrong with coconut oil. So wherever you can kind of put it into your system, I say put it into your system.
Are you saying that decaffeinated coffee you can drink as much as you want?
No.
No.
No. Well, but see, here's the challenge with decaffeinated coffee. Decaffeinated coffee is highly processed. That would be my issue with decaffeinated coffee.
Either way,
I know, but it's still it's still it's the process of taking the caffeine out.
but if it's water taken out, they take out it's taken out with water. There is a difference, a big difference.
Yeah, they use chemicals to take the caffeine out. It's not just boiling the coffee bean and then getting rid of that water and saying this is decaf. There's a much larger process to it than that.
No, I was just saying,
Yeah.
I had organic coffee somewhere, and it was wonderful.
Okay.
It didn't say decaf.
Oh, okay, okay.
They told me it didn't have caffeine in it. I don't know.
No, now there are a lot of wonderful, there's a company called Ticino, and it's Teccino, something like that, Ticino. And Ticino, they take all sorts of different herbs and they roast them, and they've chosen all the ones and they've done the process so that it stays alkalonic. And they've created these coffee substitutes. So they have like a chai, they have a hazelnut, they have all these different flavors, and they're actually very good for you. And if you like that dark richness from your coffee, you might like that as also an alternative. Okay? So let's see here. Cholesterol, we have good cholesterol, we have bad cholesterol, right? So our goal, once again, is really looking at our food labels and making sure that we're not ingesting foods that's going to make us produce bad cholesterol, because that's where we have the issues, when we are producing it. We don't want to produce it. We want to just keep whatever we've got and go from there. High fructose corn syrup, we talked about that before. I basically went over all of these points earlier. It's not a good thing. Most candy these days has high fructose corn syrup. There's a lot of syrups, like maple syrup, that's not, like Aunt Jemima's maple syrup that has actually some ingredients in there that has high fructose corn syrup. There's bread. I went to the grocery store the other day with a client of mine to get bread. Right? And we were reading all the labels of bread. The bread she chose had 52 ingredients. And I'm like, I make bread. Bread is flour, yeast, water, a little bit of salt. I put a little olive oil in my bread, and that's it. 5 ingredients, not 52 ingredients. Okay, so you have to really start to look through everything. And unfortunately, what manufacturers do is manufacturers love figuring out which is the way that I can make this look the healthiest and the coolest, right? So if I make the label green and I add a flour to the bottom of it, and I put natural on top, and I write multigrain, you think you're getting the best thing on earth, right? You still have to read the ingredients, because they're doing that to kind of say, oh, look, that's healthy, I'm going to eat that. But that might not be as healthy as you want it to be. Food additives, okay? So in all of those processed foods, they don't go bad. They just kind of stay there. And so it's almost like milk. Milk used to go bad. Now milk doesn't. It stays for a long time in your refrigerator. Ever wonder about that? It's a little strange, okay, because it used to go bad. And that's what you want. Bread should go bad. Bread should go bad. You want if you don't want all of these preservatives to keep your food for 10 years. You want it to go bad. So these things they end up causing havoc into our system. Water. Very briefly here, a minimum of 8 glasses of water a day. For anything caffeinated or alcoholic, you add 2 more glasses of water. Okay? So if you're having a cup of coffee in the morning, right? Now you're up to 10 glasses. If you had a glass of wine at night, you're up to 12. If you had another cup of coffee maybe halfway through the day, you're up to 14. But you got to kind of start thinking about this, because you want your system to be hydrated. Supplements, I talked about that earlier also. Try not to really depend on supplements for your nutrition, because most of them are synthetically derived. So they don't have the enzymes that's going to really tell your body what to do with them. So here you are, you're buying all of these supplements thinking that you're getting all these wonderful vitamins, and unfortunately your body's basically just flushing them out. There's something called fortified. Like a cereal, a breakfast cereal, it says it's fortified with all the vitamins and minerals that you need, right? Fortification started about 80, 90 years ago. And the reason it started for impoverished nations, places that had nothing, and they needed somehow to give these people nutrition. So they basically pumped all these foods, fortified them with nutrients. And because these people had nothing, their bodies absorbed them because they needed something. We don't have that here. So unfortunately, something could say fortified, and we really are not going to absorb them. So total cereal that, is fortified with everything that you need, 100%, right? You're not absorbing all that because you don't have the enzymes in there, and your body is not really starving for those nutrients, okay? So we go back to that financial return. So you want to start really looking at foods as, what is it going to give me? What is it going to do for my body? Is it going to deplete my adrenal glands, make me exhausted and make me crave more? Or is it going to enhance my spirit and my energy and really make me want to go out there and do everything that I can and feel energized? And that's what you'd like it to do.